I've got a story in my hand about how New York plans on tracking residents' food purchases and placing price caps on meat. Okay, but as we get into the story real quick, you're going to start noticing what it's actually about. Total and complete control. Okay? I'm really fed up with it. I'm fed up with all this environmental justice, climate, environment, Earth Day crap. It said in Romans 1:25 that people would worship the creation instead of the Creator. That is what's going on here. So, it starts out like this. New York City will begin tracking the carbon footprint of household food consumption and putting caps on how much red meat can be served in public institutions as a part of sweeping initiative to achieve 33% reduction in carbon emissions from food by 2030. Now guys, before I go anymore, this is going to be unpopular on the tubes, and I need your help, the community members that know what me and Stacey are trying to do. I need your help to come up with a name for a Rumble channel. And I would like to encourage you to go check out me on Twitter, Financial Prep R, PRPPR, because I noticed as I was gathering information and going down all these rabbit holes, there was a lady that came out and she talked against the sidewalk labs that I'm going to get into in a minute. And it was all it is total control, true Big Brother stuff where you're under constant surveillance. And she was like, we got to do this. Okay, that's fine, but we're going to have to do it without revealing everybody's information. And they did not want any part of that. I actually was going to put the clip in, but I noticed after the channel made that video, or around that time, their views went way down. And that's what happens. I know for a fact that is exactly what happens here. All of this ties into Google, Alphabet. They have 90% of the internet search. So, this is going completely against what they want, is exactly what I am. So I can't expect to be here long. So check me out somewhere else. I plan on keeping this stuff going, but I just don't think I'm welcome here. I think YT is kind of like CNN of the news network. Okay, Mayor Eric Adams. Thank you, Scraggles. Mayor's Office of Food Policy and Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice announced the new program last month at a Brooklyn culinary center of all places, just before Earth Day. Oh. The city's annual greenhouse gas inventory that publicly tracks the carbon footprint created by household food consumption, which equates to, I've got all kind of notes on here, 20% of greenhouse emissions. That's what they're saying. So all you people that are eating food in your house, that's a problem. And American Express is coming out and saying they're going to be a big part of this. They think this is good, and they want to be in partnership with London and New York to launch this C40 cities. Now, the difference in the 15-minute cities and the C40 cities, from what I can tell, is the 15-minute cities is to restrict movement, and the C40 cities is to restrict food, laws against cars, all this carbon footprint. That said, it will be publicly tracking the carbon footprint. And I imagine they will be publicly shaming you if you have a poor credit score like they do in China. Carbon credit, social credit, all that stuff's going to be linked together one day. For sure, this isn't hyperbole. This is part of it. This article says New York City will begin tracking. Not maybe, okay? Now, Eco Data Lab Commissioner Rohit Argwala from the New York Department of Environmental Protection, just another one of those party member names that means nothing, usually the opposite. He is way up in the WEF. He's actually the head of urban systems and sidewalk labs for the WF. Arguala, who founded Google Smart Cities, a subsidiary of Sidewalk Labs, which is what I talked about earlier, celebrated the expanded data collection as forging a new standard for what cities have to do and a new way to shape policy. He said the inventory also will measure greenhouse gas pollution from the production and consumption of other consumer goods like apparel, air travel, health care, just all this stuff. But Adams, the mayor, wanted to focus in his presentation on food consumption, particularly meat and dairy. Adams said, all food is not created equal. And it's easy to talk about emissions. This is a quote. It's easy to talk about emissions that's coming from buildings and how it impacts our environment. He's talking about your gas-fired stove, the way you heat your house, you know, all the stuff that we've covered before. But now we want to talk about beef. And he says, I don't think people are ready for this conversation. Adams, who's a vegan, who's, according to a whistleblower, eats fish, you naughty little vegan. And hey guys, if you're a vegan, more power to you. Eat plants, that's fine. I don't care. Just don't force it on everybody. Now, after I read this little quote, I'll get into the blood work that I just got back from my doctor, and you guys know what I eat. We already know that plant-powered diet is better for our physical health and mental health. I don't know that one bit. And I'm living proof of that. But the reality is that thanks to this new inventory, we're finding out it's better for the planet as well. So I just got my blood work back, was going over with the doctor, and he said I needed to eat more salt and more cholesterol. Isn't that crazy? We've been lied to about so many things, including creation. There's still people, all the people that are on here, whether they believe it or not, think nothing blew up into everything. And there's no creator. It's the biggest lie that's ever been told to mankind. And they continue to lie to us over and over. Now, on the other side of this story, Melissa McKendry, she's a PhD, agricultural economist at Michigan State University. She says the opposite. Alternative grazing systems, she brings up. Regenerative agricultural systems. McKendry's research makes it possible for pasture-raised beef to sequester carbon and become a carbon sink, actually reducing the greenhouse footprint of food production rather than adding to it. There's another regenerative farmer named Will Harris, and he says, as a practitioner who has been regenerating depleted land for 30 years, I can tell you that regenerating land is about restarting the cycles of nature that have been broken by industrial farming. And restarting those cycles cannot be done cost effectively without animal impact. But sadly, he keeps on talking. There's a percentage of the populace that, for whatever reason, has decided that animals in the ecosystem are bad, and the way to have a healthier planet is to give up animal impact. Many of us have proven this to be wrong, but the sector of society is so committed to vegetarian vegan solution that it does not matter what we demonstrate. How many times have we seen that when we talk to somebody from the other side, you know, that has a different look than we do, than sees things differently. And when you try to approach them and have a somewhat of a debate, or maybe you don't really agree and you'd like to know why they think that way. Just like when I say, hey guys, if you don't like what I'm saying, hit the thumbs down and tell me why, and we can talk about it in the comments. You know, we can try to work through it, and maybe I'll learn something. Maybe you might learn something, you know, who knows? But the other side is not willing to do that. It's this way and that is it. It's the way I feel, and my feelings and facts have nothing to do with it. And they usually wind up screaming and ranting, and you just have to walk away. You can't even agree to disagree with the people. Last week in a C40 press release, now this was about a month ago, the groups will map the consumption-based emissions of both New York and London. It adds that The project will also pioneer new ways for other cities to measure emissions from urban consumption. See, urban consumption is a big problem for the globalists, for the people that want all the resources. They don't want you to consume anything of real value. They want you to eat bugs and really degraded food that doesn't take much energy to produce. It's all about energy. Adding that there is an urgent need to reduce the emissions impact of urban consumption, especially what is eaten and the waste food system. To that end, building data inventories and partnerships with city businesses such as supermarket chains and retailers. So they're going to build data inventories in partnership with city businesses, whether they like it or not. Supermarket chains and retailers, they're going to have to comply to these things. Moving on, ARUP, A-R-U-P, is a Rockefeller-supported, WF-affiliated organization that uses the Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies to transform cities. This is, Klaus, that sounds like I'm reading from Klaus. They promise that immense quantities of highly detailed data can produce, and I quote, new level of control, making possible more efficient and sustainable use of the world's precious materials, because we want it all. We want that stuff. You can't have it, you plebs. You're taking up room and breathing our oxygen. The report assesses consumption-based emissions in C40 cities across the world produced by food, clothing, transportation, building infrastructure, home appliances, and calls for those emissions to be halved by 2030. How do you have that? That's what I'd like to know. It's either you reduce the population or half the population does with less, or all the population does with less, but I can guarantee you they are not going to give up meat. They eat meat at these big meetings they have at Davos, where everybody gets together, all the big cronies have a big meetup, and they talk about what they're going to do with us. The C40 Good Food Cities Accelerator, this is a whole nother deal, where signature cities commit to achieving a planetary health diet by 2030, defined by more plant-based foods, less meat, less dairy, less eggs, less food waste is what they're saying. C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, also one of the forces driving implementation of the 15-minute cities across the world. The group is comprised of 96 mayors of cities from around the world, and it's funded by major corporations and philanthropic foundations, for, the big philanthropist, Billy G, people like that, that's, looking out for what's good for us, and focuses on urban activism for climate change. Guys, I'm so sick I've been reading this thing all morning trying to pin down all the important parts to talk about, so please hit the like button. I'm going to blow up if I have to keep reading about climate change and all the stuff we're being lied to, but it's so important to know what's coming. Will meat caps really lower emissions and improve health? Mayor Adams. His administration did not specify the targets or standards that would be used, but it did indicate there will be caps on meat. There'll be a cap on my meat too, a big fat cap. All right. New York already instituted Meatless Mondays as a joint initiative by the Mayor Adams and former Mayor Bill de Blasio. Vegan Friday began in public schools last year, where children are served food such as pre-packaged burritos. Don't eat packaged food if you can help it. You'll be better off. And the kid said it was nasty and sad. I bet. Meals in city hospitals have been made vegetarian by default, but you can request meat. So I imagine you get a sampling, a little ounce or so of whatever meat you say. New York City spends only about 1% of its budget on ruminant meats. New York initiative is part of a broader move by global policymakers towards targeting the food system, and meat in particular, as a source of emissions. Proposals have ranged from outright ban of meat. That's one option. Let's just ban it all together. Encourage lab-grown meat, you know, an alternative meat. Putting extra taxes on meat, so we can tax you for eating meat. Or forcing farmers to stop production, just like we're seeing in Dutch farmers. You know, it's happening over there. I've covered that quite a bit. And every time I see it, it's just unreal what's actually happening. They're paying people to stop farming. It's like 3,000 farmers, I think. I mean, this is not on the way, it's here. Now, there's a whole nother, this is about a whole nother video I'm gonna have to do because it's huge. And I didn't have any idea that Biden and his cronies submitted an executive order on advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing innovation. That is a executive order which he is very carried away with. I didn't think that's how a democracy was ran, by you know, dictatorships. But that's something we're going to have to talk about. It's about 10 pages long, so subscribe if you want to hear this kind of information. I'll go through it and get everything that's in there, because it's nutty. I went through a little of it, and the stuff that has to be done at a certain time, they're putting time limits on stuff, so they expect things to be done fast, right now, you know, before it can be undone. As policymakers across the world crack down on meat production, the alternative to meat markets, lab-grown meat industry, and insect protein markets are booming. And the serious health problems are coming of this stuff. You know, all your meat alternatives: obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, depression, just to name a few. But December 22, study in Sweden found that many plant-based meat alternatives have very high phytate levels that inhibit absorption of minerals in the human body. It's just a low-grade food. Yeah, you can eat it, but sorry, those chickens are loud. Moving on, guys, it's happening right now. Please help me figure out a channel name for Rumble. You guys know what I'm after. You know what I'm trying to do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in the comments. You guys are great. That's the best. That's the best thing about this channel, is the community that comes with it. And as always, if you do not like this kind of video, if you don't like this information, I know a lot of us don't like it, but if you think it's important that people see it, like and share. If you think it's not important, it doesn't need to be talked about, hit the thumbs down and tell me why in the comments, because I'd like to have a conversation, an actual, hey, tell me why you think this is wrong, and I'll correct whatever I've done wrong, okay? But there's a chance one of us could learn something. So I really appreciate that. Guys, have an awesome, awesome day. I'll see you in the next one. Later.